When we met, you already had your lapdog in tow.
What do you mean, lapdog, huh? I'm the only one who knows what to do!
Don't talk stupid, Stu. All you know is whatever the German tells you to think.
What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and holy crap, playable Victis characters have just leaked thanks to the COD Zombies Reddit and everybody over on Twitter who's been active with the Ether storyline. They've been sharing pictures of being able to see Victis at the Zombies menu. Yes, we already had Misty and Russman's new character models from Blackout thanks to Spectre Rising and Apocalypse Z, but we've now been able to see what current gen Stuhlinger and Marlton look like. Now, they look kind of similar to their originals from PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 back in the Black Ops 2 days, but now have a much more realistic look to them. So besides the politically correct changes made to Misty, Russman looks pretty faithful, as we've already known from Apocalypse Z, but when it comes to Stuhlinger, he looks like a mix between George Romero, Commissioner Gordon from Arkham City, and maybe a hint of Stan Lee or something. But then Marlton looks like he's been working out despite being frozen for quite some time in those cryogenic chambers. Now, these could be more DLC 5 assets that are ready for whenever they're going to be available, either maybe playable characters in DLC 4 tagged or Toten at some point throughout the middle of the Easter egg. Maybe you spawn in as them. We just don't know, but without a doubt, these are the character models that will be used for the heavy DLC 5 remakes of Transit, Die Rise, and Buried. But Josh Woolcool on Twitter also pointed out that David Mason and Sarah Hall were actually in-game at around January or February, months before they were ever added to the game itself to be playable via reserves. So for all we know, these character models could be in-game right now, because obviously Stuhlinger and Marlton will be playable characters in Blackout thanks to Operation Dark Divide. We'll be seeing an announcement about that very soon, but maybe they're just getting the assets ready once again for whenever DLC 5 releases. It's very possible to see DLC 5 come out, late holiday, right before 2019 ends, to give Activision a bit of a sales boost that they might need for Q4 2019. We just don't know, but it's very likely to either see them in a potential CGI ending cutscene for Tagged or Toten, or maybe, just maybe, they'll be playable, as I said, in the map itself. Looking at how the DLC season has been structured, we obviously have 12 possible characters you could probably spawn in as in Tagged or Toten, but it makes more sense to let Tagged or Toten be the last rodeo for Primus and Ultimus, so that each crew gets an even amount of maps within Black Ops 4. You'll have 3 maps for Primus, 3 maps for Ultimus. We have Blood of the Dead for Primus, then you have Primus also featured on Alpha Omega and Tagged or Toten. You then have Ultimus exclusively in Classified, then you also have their appearances in Alpha Omega and Tagged or Toten respectively, and then you'll have 3 maps just for Victis to have the spotlight, which would be DLC 5 or Victis Chronicles, Transit, Die Rise, and Buried. So it makes sense to kind of even it up like that. However, would not be surprised to see them either in the middle of the Easter egg, maybe you could switch crews for some particular reason, or maybe in a potential CGI ending cutscene, which everybody is expecting for this Ether finale. Now, I would be sick to see an 8 or 12 player match of zombies, and obviously Alpha Omega was one of the perfect opportunities for that, since we had 2 different crews working together to accomplish one goal in Camp Edward. So since we didn't see an 8 player map with Alpha Omega, I highly doubt we'll see an 8 player or maybe even 12 player map with Tagged or Toten. But again, it could be a case where you go to the main menu and you just randomly get put as whatever character that might be in either of the 3 crews, and you then spawn in as that character. But having an 8 or 12 player zombie match would probably just overcomplicate the Easter egg and stability of the map itself. However, when it comes to an 8 player match, that's more likely for a 4v4 mode like Grief, which we do know is 100% coming very soon to Black Ops 4, either with the start of this operation or later on during it, or at some point even with DLC 5, we just don't know exactly when, but an 8 player zombie match is definitely coming at some point. So having the Victis character models ready could get the game prepared for potential Primus versus Ultimus, Ultimus versus Victis, whatever combination of crews you guys want to have when you play Grief. But just imagine having 3 different playable areas in DLC 4. Imagine Ultimus at the Frozen Forest, Primus at the Call of the Dead remake / Lighthouse, and then Victis somewhere in Agartha near the house. Imagine 3 different areas, which would be kind of similar to DLC 3 of World War II, where the map pack released and featured 3 separate survival maps in the form of the tortured path. That would be kind of cool to see with 3 different crews here, Primus, Ultimus, and Victis. But I think we're probably expecting a little bit too much, probably setting expectations a little too high, when in reality we're either going to spawn in as one of these random 12 playable characters, or maybe you start off as Primus and Ultimus and then midway through the Easter egg one of those crews dies, Victis takes their place. We just have to wait and see. But I think the next story trailer for Tag Your Toten will determine how exactly all of these crews will be handled. We'll probably see where each crew is going to be going within this DLC 4 remake. But speaking of a story trailer, it seems like we only saw the first half of the actual cutscene for Tag Your Toten, if that's what it was, when we saw the official Light in the Darkness story trailer just 2 weeks ago, since the image they shared today on their Twitter reveals where little Sam and Eddie are. But it's also a cryptic teaser in the form of just a screenshot from the actual story trailer or intro cutscene itself. Nikolai speaks to them, and the caption for the image is, "The madness is nearly over, child." So he's speaking directly to little Sam and Eddie, which will be a quote in the actual video or trailer or cutscene itself, which we'll probably see this Friday. But for all we know, they could surprise us tomorrow or even Thursday with the actual cutscene. But don't forget, we also have the caption, "With this power and the means to control it, we can go anywhere we choose," which was actually shared on an image of the Light in the Darkness story trailer. But when we saw the trailer itself, we didn't hear that quote. So right away, I expected to see a second half of the Light in the Darkness story trailer, which we'll probably be seeing this week, and will also include the image they shared earlier today with Nick and the kids in the forest. So presumably, it'll be the second half of the first story trailer we saw, and you put those 2 parts together, it'll make the entire intro cutscene for the map itself. We'll have to see soon enough whether that's the case. Now, I also wanted to point out that JackalBoy88 over on the COD Zombies Reddit pointed out what potentially could be an outline of George Romero that's actually on the official Tag Your Toten poster that Treyarch released yesterday. Now, we know there are no coincidences within Zombies or with Treyarch and their marketing, so it's a very simple poster, has the same creepy vibe and aesthetic that the original Nocturne Toten had, which is what they were going for when they made this Tag Your Toten poster. But would not be surprised to see an outline of George Romero here in the poster, similar to how we have an outline of Ultimus Richtofen, Samantha, the MPD, all within the official classified artwork as well that we saw before release. Now, Chronorium Excerpt B on the COD Zombies Reddit also pointed out something very important about the usage of CGI and animated cutscenes within the Ether stories. Because a lot of people out there are very upset that we're not going to be getting a CGI intro for the map, but here's why we probably aren't. And as you said, it's just different styles that serve different purposes. Black Ops 3 CGI cutscenes are very easy because they're generally just 1 or 2 rooms and a couple of characters talking. The Alpha Omega intro, for example, would have been damn near impossible or cost insane amounts of money if it was CGI. They would have had to render like 8 completely different locations for that cutscene. The advantage of CGI is the emotion the characters' faces can convey, but it can't be as grandiose due to not having infinite budget. That's very true, of course. He then said it's just 2 different styles that work for different cutscenes. The Dreisendrach intro, for example, would have been really hard with CGI, so they just did it animated. Obviously, the outro for Dreisendrach is, of course, CGI, as we've all seen. I don't see why it's a huge deal which one you get as long as it fits the cutscene well. And I completely agree with that, but as I've said many times with Alpha Omega, if the ending cutscene for that map was rendered in CGI and everybody would have saw it that way, it would have been considered a top 3 cutscene of all time for the Ether storyline because of how much happens. You have Primus and Ultimus in a cutscene together. I know we saw that in Classified already, but this would be a lot different on a bigger scale. You have little Sam, little Eddie again, joining our 2 crews. You have Dr. Monty turning into a squid, you know, crazy keeper apothecon form. We then have Dr. Maxis being killed, you know, the area around Camp Edward being destroyed by crazy Samantha. A lot of things are happening in this cutscene, which probably would have been very expensive to do in CGI if they went that route, but again, would have been praised so much if it was rendered in CGI and wasn't animated like it is within the map. Now, as you guys might remember, we actually had a very similar leak to this one with the Victis crew being at the menu all the way back in December, except it was with the Celebrity Dead of the Night crew, and that leaked literally a week or 2 before the release of Dead of the Night itself. So with that being said, this could easily be a hint towards the idea that we'll be playing as Victis at some point throughout Tag Your Toten, unless again it's just getting assets in the game ready for either their playable counterparts in Blackout or DLC 5, or at some point throughout the main Easter egg of Tag Your Toten. We'll just have to wait and see. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. I have another video coming up very soon covering the new Jungle Flooded update for Black Ops 4 and going over the Reddit post I shared today on the official Black Ops 4 Reddit. I'll be covering that very soon, probably in the next few hours or early tomorrow as we prepare for more marketing this week for Tag Your Toten. But that's about it. Really hope you've enjoyed. enjoy, check all links down below in the description, and peace out, everyone.